I'm Gab, he's Jules. Gray skies over West London, but it doesn't matter because Jules is back to brighten the day.
Yes.
We're going to be talking a lot of transfers on the show.
Yeah.
Because we're in that weird week after 1 week of the season. It's a weird midweek Champions League qualifiers. And I just want to talk about the transfer market because it feels, I think, as if this summer very little money has been spent. There's still a ton of uncertainty out there. I want to break this down in a somewhat intelligent way, if we can. But first and foremost, you agree, and the numbers don't lie about this.
It's just not a feeling, Gab. I think it's the fact that in every league, including the Premier League, which is the richest, the most powerful league in the world, even some clubs there are very careful on how they spend their money, where they spend it, and looking at selling well, even before signing players. Liverpool, for example, have yet to sign anybody. They will be adding a few players. We will talk about that in quick hits later. But it's still strange that you've got 4 clubs in France who are not going to sign anybody, who haven't signed, who are just thinking about selling. Same in Spain and Italy and Germany as well. It's not the numbers that we used to see in previous transfer windows.
Although I even wonder if last season, I wrote a piece after the summer market closed last year, if this trend hadn't actually begun last summer as well. It's just that we didn't notice it at much because you got this big boost of money from the Saudi Pro League,
true.
Recirculating around Europe. That money's not there now.
And it is still, but
it's a lot less. Right?
Yeah,
It's a lot less. And what I'm wondering right now is this just down to profit and sustainability rules in the Premier League and elsewhere, UEFA's new version coming in? Is there a broader sense that clubs maybe the business side of it isn't as good as clubs thought it was going to be in terms of endless growth and whatever, even though, to be fair, there never was that endless growth. Is it that clubs are getting smarter and saying, you know what, I'd rather get a 21-year-old guy who performs at 5 out of 10 compared to a 28-year-old guy who performs at 5 out of 10, because a 21-year-old guy is going to cost me a ton less in wages, and I've got potential resale value if I move him on. All these factors come into it, right?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe the different approach maybe from ownership as well. There maybe was a time where owners, really rich people, would be very happy to just splash the cash and give money to their club for them to sign players, regardless of if they were making then a profit or not, and it was just that kind of mentality. And now even very rich owners are just far more careful and are a bit reluctant to go into their own pocket to either cover some debts or going to loan money to get signings and things like that, which is a completely fair point. Even if you're super rich, doesn't mean that you have to do crazy stuff with your money.
I want to know, for the record, for those who aren't watching us on YouTube, that Jules, as he speaks, is wearing a Gael Clichy number 22 Manchester City shirt as he talks about owners willing to spend.
I'm just saying the approach might be different, slightly from in the past.
One of the upshots of
But is it a trend though? That was my next question to you. Is this going to stay like this, or for many seasons to come? Is it going to be different next summer?
Listen, I think this is what you call, a free market correction. I think people are realizing that the value added of certain types of players isn't as high. I think people are becoming smarter. People that, coupled with the new regulations, which I don't think are not much tougher than before, but it's just good business, right? The fact that we're moving towards you can't spend more than 70% of your revenue on players. It seems like common sense if I'm running a business, right? Some will challenge it to, no, what about growth, blah, 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 the cartel. We're going to break this down more in the Gab and Juls show, but one thing I want to ask you about is, because we're seeing this really messy situation, obviously, with Chelsea, but not just Chelsea, a lot of clubs have guys training on their own. Real Sociedad, Juventus, as they try to force a transfer or force through a transfer or try to get rid of players. It's incredibly messy. We've got free agents who are out there nobody's talking about. We'll get to Depay and Rabiot later. Would we be better off if the league hadn't started yet, if the window shut before the leagues?
It's the eternal debate, isn't it? I don't think you should start a league when the window is still open, when everybody can sign players, and for another 2 or 3 weeks after the start of the season. But for that, everybody would have to do the same, which is never going to happen.
Well,
There's no
in the past, that was the counter argument, right? In the past, you had like France, I remember, started way early. Spain started way late. This year, I mean, 4 of the big 5 leagues all started on the same weekend.
Yeah.
And the Bundesliga is going to start the next week. I wonder if there's more of an appetite for coordination for everybody to benefit.
Maybe.
Because if you get the top 10 leagues in there, then I'm okay with it. I don't think it's going to have a big knock-on effect because, somebody's going to come from Slovakia and
change the dynamic of the
of the market. Yeah. All right, Jules, we touched upon 4 factors, if you want to include the Saudi factor into it, that are driving this down. The Saudi factor, I think, was just something that delayed things a year ago when they put this money in. And I hope I'm not boring everybody, but I just want to get into this a little bit.
No, it's really interesting. People need to understand.
So the 3 things are the business side of it and the overall health of the business. The fact that there's new analytics-driven approach in almost every club.
Yeah.
People are saying, we've overpaid for these older players. We really have in the past. We're looking for value, right?
Yeah.
And there's a regulation piece to it. Let's start with the regulation piece, which is easy. These financial fair play rules on the UEFA side have been in place for a long time in different leagues. They've had different rules, the wage caps in La Liga, here in England, the profit and sustainability rules, all this stuff has all come together. But I think what we've seen in the last couple of years is a real willingness to enforce them, right? We've seen it with Barcelona getting hammered by La Liga over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. And other Spanish clubs as well. There's plenty that we don't mention much, but who are under very strict conditions too.
But because they know it's not just the rule that's strict, but there's a hunger to enforce it. They're willing to enforce it. And I think that was huge.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Last season, what we saw here, sorry, Everton fans, but like Everton and Forest, because you can have fines for speeding, but then if I don't get a ticket,
you keep speeding,
Exactly. And I think that's been a big factor. I think UEFA now feel more empowered to apply the rules.
Yeah.
And to have different types of rules as well as kind of this, what they call the squad cost ratio. Essentially, you can only spend a certain amount. It's going to be 90% of your annual revenue.
Yeah.
And it's going to go down to 70% pretty quickly. So that has a dampening effect. We agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're very careful on how you spend your money, like you said, but also on wages. I know a lot of players right now who are either looking to move or are free agent, who know that they're not going to get the same money that they were on under contract last season, wherever they were, even as a free agent. So I think a lot of clubs are looking at reducing their wage bill already. Whether you give a longer term contract and in the end, the wages is still less, or you just go, listen, I can't pay you 5-8 million a year anymore, 10 million a year anymore. This is not possible. And in that way, we saw it with Gundogan. We mentioned Federico Chiesa together when we were preparing for the show. Clubs cannot afford to pay someone like Chiesa 13 million euros a year in wages. It's not possible anymore.
So, is it just? When you say it's not possible,
well,
I think
it is possible,
it's more like they don't want to.
Yeah, they don't want to, exactly. Sorry.
Because I think they see the value in the younger players. And look, and this is the Chelsea model, which if you want, has been taken to an absolute extreme, right? So you turn these players into assets, you monetize them. I know people don't like it, and it's our company policy to say, no, we don't want you to say so-and-so, we don't want you to say Dominic Solanke was sold to Bournemouth, to Spurs, which, however way you think of it, the reality is, in this context, it's appropriate to talk that way.
Yeah.
Because these players are now being treated like, even more so than before, like assets.
Like
and obviously, let's remind everybody that before we get sanctimony from fans of American sports, most players in American sports have no say when they get traded.
Yeah.
Okay? In football, every single player can turn down a move. Everybody, okay, on this side of the pond. So please, no lectures from over there. Because I've had this. I get it on social media with some regularity, and it just really does my head in.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, some basketball players find out from Woj that they've been traded. So,
exactly. So that kind of financialization of football means that, look, objectively, a younger player has more value. a younger player costs you less money. And players have certain expectations. Nobody says, oh, well, I was making 100 before. I mean, I think it's like real life, right? If I was making 100, I don't want to make 60 later. Even if I move to a smaller club, right? Unless I have to.
Yeah.
Or they do the thing which we see often, like, okay, well, I'll take 60, but then I want a 5-year deal, right? Which really constricts the club. And I think that's a big part of it. I think the other thing in this context is I think people just prefer younger players because they're more pliable, they're more amenable to following instructions. I think what we're saying, I saw with Barcelona last week, right? So obviously there's no De Jong, there's no Gundogan, now we know why. Oriol Romeu's gone.
Yeah.
And you have these two guys named Mark, was that their name?
So Bernal, yeah.
But Marc Bernal and Marc Casado, right?
Casado, yeah.
17 and 20. Who are these dudes? They probably make minimum wage.
Yeah. From the academy.
Come onto the field and they play against Valencia and they don't look out of place. I'm not saying either one is going to turn into the next big thing. But if I have two fungible guys who I can pay minimum wage versus 25 million a year for Frankie de Jong, or however much he's on, it's less than that now.
Less than that, but yeah.
Or the massive Sergio Roberto.
Yeah.
Why do I want this older guy who then I can't sell, I can't move on?
Absolutely.
Right? So there is more and more of this thinking everywhere.
Yeah, but because before there was so much money involved in the game that you didn't have to be smart. You didn't have to be cautious or careful in the way you were doing things. It was very much, it felt a lot of the times that agents were in a way running clubs, a lot of clubs, by imposing their rules almost. I want that much for my client, I want that for client, I want that wages, this bonus, this transfer fee, etc. And now it's clearly shifting, it's clearly changing. Agents are still very important and they are a massive part of the game, whether we like them or not. But it feels like, certainly to me, that clubs have taken back quite a lot of the control of how you do things now. Whether then players and agents are happy or not, it doesn't matter so much. We've seen a lot of deals this summer that didn't happen in the end because clubs were not willing or happy to pay over the odds a transfer fee or wages or even agent fees too.
I spoke to an agent whose name you would recognize very recently, who does a lot of work as an intermediary, also does some player representation, and he said, basically, this summer we're making most of our money by taking players away from clubs.
Yeah.
Because the clubs are paying us to take players away, than they are for us to bring players to the club, which
I'm not surprised.
Which is a pretty seminal shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I wonder is, underlying this, is there an issue with a broader business of football? Because we have this idea, investment, growth, blah blah blah. It's not like we make a living talking about it, right? But with any business, there are corrections.
Yeah.
And football had a situation where for a long time it lost a ton of money. Then financial fair play came in. Then the books got better.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've made the point in the past, like when people put a valuation on a club, right? We made the point, the Glazers wanted $8 billion for Manchester United.
Yeah.
They had to settle for a little more than $5 billion as a valuation, right?
Yeah.
The other ones, Fenway wanted $3 billion for Liverpool. Like, look, nobody's showing up, right? People now say, people said at the time, $2.5 billion for Chelsea is completely out of kilter with reality, right? So all these things, I think, put together make us wonder. And I think what we want to talk about is the business getting worse, right? So traditionally, very basically, football clubs make money one of three ways. They make money through the box office or the stadium.
Yeah.
They make money from media rights, and they make money from commercial. There's a classic, what they call the 3-2-1 ratio, right? So let's just look at all these income streams. When it comes to stadiums, we've seen, obviously, United are talking about a new stadium. Barcelona are working on theirs. Real Madrid just redid theirs. I kind of get a sense, though, you're kind of hitting your head against the ceiling, right? In a sense, your stadium can only be so big.
Yeah.
You can only charge so much money.
Yeah, and yes, you can have boxes and very expensive locations within your stadium to try to raise your revenue and making more money, and some very rich people will pay a lot of money to get a box at X stadium somewhere in Europe or in the world. But yeah, you're right. There's 60,000 people. You can have maybe up to, if you have a 60,000 seater, your season ticket holders can be up to maybe 40,000 because you still need some general sale or different style of sale. Plus your boxes, it gets to a point where you can't keep putting the prices up. We see a lot of clubs just freezing the amount that people pay for tickets. And this is it. So it's not going to come from ticket revenue or gate revenues that you're going to make much, much more money than what you already make, basically. Unless you go for a brand new stadium twice the size of your current one.
I'm going to name drop. I spoke to the chief executive of a very well-known Premier League club, and he made the point that if we increase our ticket prices for like the average fan 5%, we're going to make maybe an extra 3-4 million a year, and we're going to have freaking revolt,
of course,
on our hands, and it's just not worth it. So in some ways, and I get, you get people from the US coming over and saying like, oh look, if I want to go watch the New York Giants at that crappy stadium in off of exit 16W, I got to pay, the cheapest tickets. Not that you can get tickets because they're always sold out, but like $800, $1,000, and here, even at Arsenal, face for the cheapest ticket, if you can get it, or if you get somebody's season ticket, it's going to be what, 50, 60 pounds?
Yeah,
these are
it
the
depends
most
on the
expensive.
opposition, but yeah.
These are the most expensive tickets in the Premier League, right? The most expensive, cheapest tickets, if you will, right? So, and I think it's the same around Europe, and in fact, it's more so in Germany.
It's really cheap,
the fans, take to the streets, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to squeeze more money. You can get stadium naming rights. You can make more luxury boxes.
Yeah.
But even then, Jules, with the luxury boxes, if I'm in a part of the world, if I'm in Paris, if I'm in Munich, there's a lot of rich people. If I'm in a part of the world where there are not a lot of rich people,
no, that's true.
Who am I selling that box to? Because I can give you the box. In fact, I'm going to say Arsenal again because a friend of mine had an experience there where he had this match day package. It was a gift where you can drive right into the stadium.
Yeah.
You get you arrive there like 4 hours before kickoff. You get like a 7-course Michelin star, but from a legit Michelin star chef.
Yeah, Mont Blanc. Yeah.
Right. You get there in the warm and the heated seats and all this crap. Right. Yeah. But how many people can the person who bought him that ticket obviously can afford? How many people can afford that? Right. So you're not going to sell those.
No.
So I think to some degree that part is kind of topped out. That's not going to increase.
Yeah. I mean, do as well as you can, obviously, and get as much money as you can from your ticket revenue and get revenue. But
so there are some who can improve because they have old, crappy stadiums, like some Serie A clubs, for example, right?
Yeah, of course. But even Everton, it would make a big difference for them to go into the new stadium, although that stadium is costing them also a lot of money that then you have to pay back.
So that part's not going to grow. The media rights. I think what we've seen, I made this point before, everybody's kind of talking about, well, the big TV companies, like, dude, 1980s are over, or 1990s, or 2000, whatever decade. That's done. I'm not saying we worked for TV. Look, premium rights, overvalued for a long time, right? And now some reality's hitting. Now some people who were maybe buying rights for political reasons, because they wanted influence, yes, I'm talking about you being, now they're saying, hey, we kind of want to break even and make, I mean, they're you saw that in France, right?
Yeah, completely. Absolutely.
People want to run his businesses now.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. And you can blame piracy, you can blame attention span, you can blame whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing that the rights are flat.
Yeah, completely. I mean, they're never going to increase again, I think. I think they reach a ceiling, which we saw coming. Not that the bubble is going to explode just yet, but they will stagnate, maybe getting lower a little bit, not dramatically for the Premier League, for example. But yeah, things have changed.
If you adjust for inflation for the Premier League, we said like they're 15% lower than they were a decade ago.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So then the next one is commercial and sponsorship.
Yeah.
And it's the first week of the season. And did you notice who Chelsea, I know you were on holiday, did you know who Chelsea's sponsor were in week one?
Yeah. It's no one.
Yeah. So,
but remember last season already, they struggled to sell that shirt. In the end, they got Infinite Athlete or Athlete Infinity, whatever it's called.
Infinite Athlete,
Infinite Athlete.
So, okay, this has been a long-running thing. Remember, we did our thing with Ricardo 4. I don't understand the shirt sponsorship. I think shirt sponsorships I'm guessing, are pretty much worthless for most companies. What I mean by this is and this is why we're seeing so many companies that are flush with cash, thinking short term, and they just want to get their name out there. And that's why we've seen so many gambling ones, right?
Yeah.
All those 888, 999, that weird man bet thing that sounds like Grinder, right? The was it Vols and Villa they're doing? And then you get all the crypto stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, I just want market share, and I don't care what I'm paying for it. But take those away. How many? And again, I don't want to diss companies who might want to sponsor the Gab and Juls show one day, but you see a pattern to it, right? If I'm at it's different. Like you're wearing a City shirt that's sponsored by Etihad Airways. Yeah. Etihad has some connection, I believe, to the owners of the club, and you can argue they serve like Emirates. They're like a hub airway. You want to fly to Australia, you'll change here to get the money, whatever.
Yeah.
You can see some logic in that, right?
Yeah.
But remember when Manchester United did the deal with Chevy?
Yeah, I was going to say Chevrolet. Did you think they sold more cars?
Yeah, who's gonna be like, oh look, I will consider. I'd never heard of this brand, right?
No, but maybe you just think hey, it's a good idea to drive a Chevrolet because they're sponsoring Manchester United. No,
yeah, or maybe you're a City fan and now you think I'll never buy one because they're sponsoring. It's a tricky one with sponsorship,
yeah, it
right?
is. And some I think pay a lot of money for it, like Chevy at the time. Others, not so much.
Right.
And
that's why you get also weirdo brands that nobody's ever heard, like Team Viewer. What the hell's that, right? Like, and there's a reason I think many times successful brands tend to repeat, and if they don't repeat, maybe there's a reason for that. So I think that whole segment, there are other ways to make money. Obviously, if you're a football club on the commercial side. But it's hard. It's hard because you have to come up with original ideas and whatever else. Mm-hmm. For a while, clubs is like, let's make our own TV channels. We'll show old games. We'll show. Remember the early iteration of Manchester United television? They had cooking shows and stuff like that with the club chef. This is fine. Just people aren't really going to pay for that.
No, that's true. So I guess transfers and having a strong academy to produce players who then you let go at some point. Is I think what a lot of clubs aspire to do at some point. It's just not that easy.
And also, if going forward nobody has money, who are you going to sell all your starters?
That's true.
So all that said, I think it's going to be correction. I think wages are going to come down, costs are going to come down. Because this is a nice thing about football as a business, right? There's no other. It's not like you run a factory where you've got a unionized workforce and you got to look after these people until they retire at 60 or 65, right? In football, every year. A quarter of your team goes out of contract.
Yeah.
So if you need to cut back, you know that those costs will be gone.
Yeah.
And you can replace them from kids in the academy.
Exactly.
You can replace them with cheaper alternatives. So as a business, I think it'll continue to run. But I think we are entering some kind of recession here, or correction.
Football,
if you want to be
more correction or football. All that said, Gabby, we also expect for the next 10 days now, because the transfer window is open.
Chaos.
It will be a big chaos at times. The late deals where the clubs do it to correct something that they saw in the first 3 weeks of the season, a bit of panic buy for players who are with just 1 year left on the contract and are panicking a little bit. I need a club, maybe putting There
were players who are being forced out. If I stay here, do I get paid, but then I don't play? There's a ton of that going on. There's free agents.
Yeah.
I think this will really be the domain of Romano, Ornstein, all these transfer gods that we worship, Di Marzio, all these guys. So
they'll be busy. The next time.
Stay busy. And hey, and we'll be here to opine on it. All right, enough depressing everybody about the state of football. Let's go with some quick hits instead.
Let's go, Gab.
Now, I was surprised when Ilkay Gundogan sat out Barca's game at Valencia Saturday. Now I know why. He was busy rescinding his contract so he could move back to Manchester City, freeing up cash to register Dani Olmo. This is just a reality, yeah?
It is. It might sound strange that to recruit a player, you need to let go another one that way. Otherwise, you can't register him, which is bonkers. Your football club, a football club, should
let go of your captain.
Yeah, one of your best players. Really, let's be honest. It should not be a club should not be run like that. But this is what Barcelona found themselves in. This is the situation for them. And even now that Gundogan is almost gone, they still can't register Dani Olmo anyway. So they need to find more space in their wage bill, more money somewhere. For City, you get him as a free agent. Gundogan is back. It's another option for Guardiola. it's a different dynamic, because suddenly if you're Foden, if you're KDB, that means another guy who's coming competition for places, etc. Anything you want. But I think it was a no-brainer from a City point of view, and Guardiola and Gundogan to be reunited again.
For 5 minutes, I heard the original version about how, like, no, he wants to go to Turkey, blah, blah, blah. And they ran the picture of him with Erdogan back when Gundogan had his little mustache, so it could look like a mini Erdogan. And I'm like, oh, that would be romantic. Like, no.
Okay, fair enough. And sticking with Barca, Gabi, Vitor Roque is reportedly close to a loan deal to Betis. They paid 31 million euros for him.
They're talking it's a 2-year loan deal, so I'm assuming they're going to get some loan fee to pay his amortization. He has this crazy contract through 2031. Yeah. Sporting apparently offered a permanent deal for him, but Barcelona turned it down, or maybe Vitor Roque turned it down. Maybe, I don't know. This is one deal that you can't go and pin on the previous administration, John. This is all you.
Yeah.
More City. The Times report that Kygo Furuhashi could be on his way from Celtic. Jules, he's 29. Celtic would like a fee north of 20 million. I'm not sure they're going to get that. But does this make sense?
So, one, I love Kygo. Absolutely love Kygo. I would love to see him in a Guardiola team. I think as a second striker, force number 9, I think he can play so many different positions. To replace Alvarez by him, I know the age is a bother for you, 29.
You think not for Pep. His contract's done. He's out of there in summer.
True. For him, Pep only sees the next 10 months, really. I think he would be a great signing for City. And I think he would be a utility player, a squad player, but I think a very, very useful one. And if you can get it maybe for a bit less than the 20 million, you go for it. And for Kygo, I mean, imagine at this stage of his season.
And I think for Celtic, even it's late. I think they paid $4.5 million for him, something like that. So it is a good turnaround for players getting older.
Absolutely. And this was way back on Monday, but not that late. Jamie Vardy equaliser means that Leicester and Spurs share the spoils at the King Power. 2 points drop for Ange.
100%.
They could have lost the game even.
Which is weird because they dominated the game.
They were so much in control.
So many chances. Yeah. I think it's one of those things that's really going to be that's really kind of like a body blow if you're Spurs, if you're Ange, because and obviously there was some trolling as well from Leicester and from Jamie Vardy specifically. It does feel like, oh look, Spurs being Spursy, you want to crush that narrative.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what he said to the players afterwards, but this is worse than a defeat. I think psychologically.
He seemed pretty angry. Yeah, and. I would say there was a lot of positives in some of the football they played, especially in that first half. Solanke had a couple of good chances to score. Didn't happen for him. And then they just lost their way again. Defensively, on the goal, they're shambolic. The Vardy goal, they could have considered a second one where they were all over the place again defensively. So he needs to sort this out. But we said that last season, didn't we? That he needed to sort out the defensive frailty that we saw last season. And guess what? They're still there.
Jules, we're not done. The good bit of quick hits is coming up. Le Monde reports that Kylian Mbappe is aggressively going after Paris Saint-Germain over those 50-odd million euros in unpaid wages and signing bonuses he was supposedly promised. Some are even suggesting it could lead to Paris Saint-Germain being excluded from the Champions League. Jules is just trolling you, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is old news, really. We've talked about it for weeks now.
It's old news, but if it comes to court...
Yeah, but we knew that lawyers, it was with your favorite, the lawyers, that at some point the French league had been kind of alerted or noticed that PSG, that the Mbappe clan was also going to go to UEFA, of course, and FIFA and all of that. So it's a shame, as we said last time, that he ends like this and that now it's a court battle instead of them two shaking hands saying thank you for the great memories. But that's
this is the part I don't understand. So they basically, I think, as I understand it, the reports are that he wasn't paid his last 3 months in salary.
Yeah, and one bonus.
And then on top of that was that special bonus when he decided to stay for the other year and whatever, right? And that last one seems a little bit fugazi, verbal promise, clauses and whatever. But the other part is his salary. He has a contract.
Yeah.
I don't understand. How do you... Do Paris Saint-Germain, do they explain why they just decided
they
to
just
stop
said
paying
that
him?
he told them that he would waive off some of the bonuses and I guess no wages, but yeah, some of the amount that they need to pay him at the end of his contract to make it fair, that's the word they used, for him to leave as a free agent. And he said publicly in an interview in L'Equipe back in January or February that him and the club found an agreement. So he explains the agreement is that nobody will be like, will be better off when I leave. Even the club now is secure in when I leave. They're gonna be okay. So which himself was hinting that there was some sort of agreement that he would leave some money behind, so he would not leave. The club would not.
So this agreement, if it's written down on a piece of paper,
which was undone,
it was never written down.
No.
Okay, so lawyers do your thing.
Yeah,
lawyer's gonna lawyer.
Juventus getting off a flying start with a 3-0 win over Como on Monday night. Pierre Kalulu from Milan is a done deal. Nico Gonzalez could also be on his way soon. And even McKennie might get another year on his contract. Do you like this Thiago Motta shock therapy?
Well, yeah, I think it's shock therapy because he's moving people out. He played this new guy in Bangula.
From Next Gen?
Yes, and you're going to tell me he's Paris born and bred?
He's Belgian.
He's Belgian, but you know, he's probably been to Paris at some point.
Yeah, he's quite close.
Kalulu, again, youngish player, versatile, 3 million euros, 14 million option to buy.
Yeah.
Not a bad situation there. It's interesting the treatment of Federico Chiesa. This ties to what we said before. He's got a year left on his contract. He's been sent to train on his own. They'd like to move him. They would like 20 million euros for him. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. The reality is he makes 13 million euros a year gross. The unamortized value on the books with 1 year left is 8.1 million.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Gundogan thing. You could just give them away and you'd be saving yourself money. Yeah. Just about, right? Yeah. So interesting to see what Chiesa does, but they definitely want to go with the kids, and they're playing better attacking football.
They're going in the right direction for sure.
No question. All right, let's go there, Jules. Don and I got heated over this on Monday. We need to hear your take. Enzo Maresca says he's not really working with 40-odd players because he only trains with 21. Yeah. The others are off by themselves. Is he being mean, or is he just following orders from the club?
So what was the two sides of the argument between you and Don? What was your point and what was his point?
No, Don was basically making the point that Sterling was justified in putting the statement out, and that his agents are justified, and that Sterling legitimately expected that he would be a big part of the season this year. And I said to him, and my view was that actually his agents kind of let him down, or he's being gullible, or he was lied to, because his agents sort of said at the end of last year, look, this is the direction of travel at Chelsea. Young players or whatever. It's not a question of your ability, Raheem. It's a question of you don't fit the business model.
Yeah. So I'm more with you than with Don, for sure. In terms of what Maresca said, I hope for him it doesn't work with 42 players on the training pitch, because the pitch would not be big enough anyway. You can't do drills, you can't do games, you can't do anything with 42 players. So I hope so.
Some of them are gone now.
Yes, some will be gone soon. It's brutal in the sense that you never want to say to a player, I don't want you here, go on to that pitch and train with the under 21 fitness coach or whatever, because they have to still provide coaching for those players who they don't want to. But yeah, there's nothing. He's not being mean. You can't work with 42 players.
And he's not making the rules anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Gab, some of those 42 players are on their way out. We mentioned that earlier. Bashir Humphries is off to Burnley on a loan with obligation to buy. Broja, we mentioned before, heading to Ipswich on loan with an obligation to buy of 30 million as well.
If they stay up.
Meanwhile, Conor Gallagher finally joined Atletico Madrid for around 40 million euros, with Joao Felix going in the other way around because he worked so well for him the last time he was at Chelsea. Does this all make sense to you?
So, like Jules, from a football side, the signing of Joao Felix makes zero sense to me. Like, really zero.
But that was done for financial reasons, right?
Yeah, and I think we can explain why, again, without boring you too much with amortization. Essentially, Atletico, assuming Joao Felix has 36 million residual value, it's an estimate, but it sounds about right. Yeah. Then they would have made 14 million on Felix, and Gallagher's costing them 8 million a year. Plus, I'm pretty sure Joao Felix makes more money than Gallagher. So it's great for them. From Chelsea's perspective, they make 40 million on Gallagher. Joao Felix will cost them 8.3 million plus higher wages than Gallagher, but whatever. They're laughing all the way to the bank on this one. Look, we've generated 25 to 30 million. From a football perspective, Gallagher for Atletico, running around, blah, 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 makes more sense.
Type of player, no problem.
João Felix for Chelsea makes zero sense to me. I would not go near that guy, honestly.
Yeah.
As for Atleti, they drew 2-2 with Villarreal on Monday with their other new striker, the only living Sorloth in captivity, scoring the equalizer. Other new striker in Bundes, not Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
Jules, do you like how they're coming together?
I was a bit disappointed by the performance, I won't lie, on Monday night. They showed character to come back twice, but they were very vulnerable. That first goal, the way Witzel defends on Danjuma.
Oblak not great either.
Oblak not great either, you're right. A few things defensively that I didn't like. I like the flow with the ball, and Alvarez was only on the bench. He came on for the last 15 minutes or so. So I think he would be better. The team would be better once he settles in and start playing well. So there's still a lot of work to do, I think, for El Cholo. Gab Hendrick didn't feature in Real Madrid's opening day draw at Mallorca, and some are already wondering whether he might go on loan. Is this crazy?
I don't think it's crazy at all. I think you need to see where he is. He doesn't need to go now. He can. I don't know if they can register him for the for the B team, play at that level, settle in. But maybe you should go in January, because the reality is, on the right, you got Brahim Diaz, you got other alternatives, and you, of course, with the strikers you have, the main thing is for him to settle in Europe, be happy, and grow. Fabrizio Romano and others report that Manuel Ugarte has an agreement with Manchester United, that you just need to hammer out a deal with Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah. Maybe one of those loans with obligation to buy. They seem to be so popular.
It looks like this, yeah.
You think this is going to happen, yeah, Jules?
Yeah, I think so. He wants to go. PSG want to let him go. United want him to have another option in midfield with Casemiro and Kobe Mainoo. So, yeah, I think so. There are 2 bids rejected already by PSG earlier in the summer. Then he went quiet, and now he's back on again. And I think you're right. The loan with obligation to buy, probably around 55 million pounds, is probably the way it will end up.
And PSG can use those funds to get Osimhen.
Exactly. I'd be very happy with that. Paulo Dybala is very close to a move to Saudi Arabia, Gab. Al Qadsiya offering 3 years at 25 million. But why would Roma... A season, sorry, yeah. Why would Roma let him go for just 3 or 4 million?
So one of the things that he negotiated when he came in was a release clause of 12 million in a contract that would escalate, and that escalation would come in this season. It would cost him a ton of money. Like I said at the time, Dybala's gone. He's older. He gets injured. He's wonderful to watch. He's fun to watch on the highlight reels. Al Qadsiya seemed to be the only Saudi club that are throwing money around, or one of the few ones anyway. Interesting. If they replace him, like Jeremy Boga seems to be the top of the line there. Not the best season at Nice, I thought. No. They're after Manu Kone from Borussia Mönchengladbach. That's more.
And they have Matthias Sule, who's...
And, of course, they have Sule coming in. Yeah. And Zalewski.
Yeah.
Jules, we're big Santi Jimenez fans. Reports in Holland linking with Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
But then Forest are also linked with a £30 million move for Eddie Nketiah. Yeah. Now, I know Forest is kind of like wacky land. Like, they do interesting things. Yeah. I no disrespect to Eddie, but I know who I'd rather sign.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they want to sign 2 strikers with the same profile is encouraging, I think, from the club's point of view, because obviously Nketiah and Santi are very, very similar, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, but anyway, that's one for another time. I don't think Feyenoord would be happy with 30 million, certainly the way the deal is structured from Forest, 26 plus 4. Whereas I think Arsenal would be very happy with 30 million for...
Why don't Arsenal just sign Santi? Why don't Santi sell Nketiah and
that.
sign Santi? No, but
Santi Jimenez, Arsenal.
What's going on? Why wouldn't you expect more?
Yeah,
in terms of fee, that they could get more.
I was invited on the Football America's show the other night, where we talked about Santi Jimenez, and I think maybe the fact that...
Did Seb get all excited? Did he start salivating?
Seb was on holiday, so Alexis was there with Herc and I. We were all wearing lovely football stuff. I don't know, it's a strange one, because at some point it looked like Santi Jimenez stock was going up and up and up and up. And that at some point the big move, whether to Italy, to England, wherever, was on the cards. And then maybe last season, and maybe some of the chances that he missed, the numbers, maybe put a few people off. Copa America as well, maybe the Champions League too. So, I don't know, he's still young, he's still 23 years old, so there's plenty of time for him. But I don't think he will go to Forest, and I would bet that they get Nketiah though. Speaking of big strikers, Gabi, Chelsea are meeting with Napoli in the next few hours over Romelu Lukaku. This is getting done, do you think?
The Lukaku reportedly has a deal with Napoli, thanks to Conte. It's 3 years at 6 million net plus bonuses, which when you work it all out is not. It's a little pay cut. It's not a big.
Yeah,
pay
not
cut.
big, not big.
A 3-year deal for Lukaku at this stage of his career seems folly to me, but whatever. So now they got to hammer out the price with Chelsea. Maybe Chelsea, if they get Broja over the line and they got the Gallagher deal done, maybe they can go and get a discount. I mean, I think if you're Chelsea, you do not want to be in this situation again next year. You have to find a home for him. So I think that's why. I think they already wrote down part of the value. I think my guess is this deal gets done maybe at 25 million, 30 million, or something like that, which is a lot of money. Also, Napoli getting David Neres,
which I don't understand.
The artist form. We thought he was so good when he was so young.
Yeah, but now he hasn't been good for a while.
One of those mysterious. I wonder who looks after him. He was very good at placing players.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the background, if Lukaku comes, is that then free up Osimhen. Again, Osimhen, poor guy's been training on his own.
Yeah.
One of the top center forwards in the world. Not a piece from anywhere.
Are you surprised that he hasn't found a club yet, that nobody's come for him apart from Saudi clubs?
This is what I think. I think your friends at Paris Saint-Germain have spoken to Osimhen's people.
Yeah, that we know.
Said, let us sort out all this crap. Let's get rid of that Ugarte, ugly Arte, as Luis Enrique calls him. And then I'm going to come for you, Victor. You just sit tight, train on your own, and then I'm going to come in. I'll make sure Gonzalo Ramos gets injured in the first week of the season, so I can sell this even more.
So that was the plan all along.
Maybe I can trick somebody into taking Colomwani away because Gab Marcotti really doesn't like him.
Chelsea, maybe? Chelsea, Colomwani, great signing.
Respect. No, but it's logical, right? And then August 31st comes and somebody shows. But this is the stupid thing. This is what Napoli got wrong. Somebody shows up and says like, "Hey, De Laurentiis, 40 million for Osimhen," and then what?
I know.
And then they say no, and then Conte has to go and beg Osimhen to come into the side, and then we see an Osimhen Lukaku partnership.
Definitely not. Nobody wants to see that.
On paper, no, but would it be so bad? Can two big people not play together?
No. Them two can't play together.
I don't know where this is going, but
Conte.
Whatever. Does seem like Napoli laid an egg here. Meanwhile, Mikel Merino continues to train on his own at Real Sociedad. Jules, I take it as a certainty that the man is joining Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that will happen too. He was not involved in the game of the weekend that they lost.
Why aren't Arsenal fans more excited about this?
Maybe because it just hasn't happened yet. So, just don't get excited, and then when it happens, you get excited.
I would be I think it might be because people remember him from the Premier League before. But for me, I get somebody who can play that role, which is, I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not in his 30s.
Yeah.
Who's not Thomas
Partey. He's not far from his 30s.
27, isn't he?
28, yeah.
28, whatever. You got a couple of years. The man won the Euros.
With you. I love him. I'm with you.
Rather than the umpteenth, look, another left-footed center-back, left-back, because we don't have enough of those.
No, they did that as well.
Look, they already got the handsome guy in Calafiori. Now
I met Calafiori on Saturday, and we had a lovely chat.
Is he as handsome in real life as he looks?
And he smelled good. But the way he was looking at me...
Compared to Merino, who doesn't smell as good.
I don't know. I've never met Merino, but between me and Calafiori, there was a connection. Something happened. The way we looked at each other and everything. So yeah, and his brother, who was there too, looked like him. I guess they're brothers. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
On that homoerotic point, let's move forward.
Go. Atalanta destroyed Lecce 4-0 away on Monday. And Gab, no Coupe Minor, no Lookman, no problem.
No, so Coupe Minor's still... on the
wants to move to Juve, right?
Wants to try to force through a move to Juve. I used to think, this will get done. I'm not 100% certain at this stage that the Coupe Miners deal is that automatic, because Atalanta can hang in there if they want to. They have brought in Samardzic, so to me that's a hint that Coupe Miners is going to move.
Yeah.
Ademola Lookman looked like he pulled the Coupe Miners himself.
Yeah.
Nobody was expecting. But now he's kind of backing through the door because at some point somebody convinced them that, guess who? Paris Saint-Germain, we're going to sign him.
Which I've had conflict. This is not what I was told, but maybe this is true.
I think Lookman knows that it's in his interest. Stay at Atalanta, play well for as long as you want, and then make him. Maybe maybe when Paris Saint-Germain don't get Osimhen, maybe they'll come for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else will, right?
Maybe.
Even though you're completely different types of
Yeah.
Nigerians. But
Yeah.
whatever. Manuel Neuer is retiring from international football. Jules, your thoughts?
I've loved Manuel Neuer. I think he changed the way goalkeeper played.
Okay. Do I need to send Rene Guita to your house to beat you up
I mean,
and shake
I
you?
can't believe that in the same sentence you put Rene Guita's name with Manuel Neuer. Really, I cannot. So Manuel Neuer, seriously now, incredible servant to his country.
Colombian
obviously.
Twitter, do your thing, please.
George
At
Valderrama.
Lawrence Julian.
Valderrama, and who do you want to put his name in with in the same sentence?
Somebody else with big hair, Adrian Rabiot. All right, whatever.
Manuel Neuer, incredible. I mean, not just incredible. It's, what he did with Germany winning the World Cup. Okay, didn't win the Euros, came close, but yeah, just outstanding. I think his international career, his career overall, one of the greatest keepers of all time. So yeah.
Look, I think it's not like he's a lot older than people think he is.
Yeah.
And guess what? He keeps getting older every year.
Of course.
It doesn't help. I think it's good. This would have been a distraction for him. It's a long time to 2 years. From Germany's perspective, you have an exceptional number 2 in Ter Stegen.
Partying last night.
And I think Neuer needs to focus a little bit more on Bayern.
But that is almost finished, right? This season, maybe one more maximum, and then that's it, no?
Yeah. But he wants to obviously be the Bayern number 1 for as long as he can.
Yeah. Further details have been announced about Manchester United. Cost savings. Gab, staff won't get lunch boxes on match days. Yeah, that's still a thing. And they are cutting the numbers of programs distributed in luxury boxes as well.
Okay, so I saw this story, and I'm all for making fun of corporations being stingy and saving money on stupid things and whatever. However, and I'm even more fun of making fun of Jim Ratcliffe because Jim Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
That said, I think I'm going to be fair to Manchester United. What they're doing is very, very reasonable, right? If you read the details of the story, so first of all, these lunch boxes were given to like agency staff, which is all those people you see at football clubs, like stewards, people who clean. Those aren't club employees. Those are people who come for the game.
Yes.
United used to give them lunch boxes, and they said, "Look, what's happening is people aren't eating their lunches. Why? Because it's often gross. So you get those
Yeah, we have some, with UEFA when we go to Champions League match. They give us like a little pack lunch.
Yeah, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's really bad. It's like a piece of fruit and like a crappy sandwich and whatever. So United are saying, look, they're wasting this. What we're going to make available for them, because they have a whole catering staff there, we're going to make some extra food for people who do want to eat. Yeah. Frankly, I don't know. Games at 3 o'clock. Do I need to eat lunch at 12 and have the club pay for it? I don't know. Bring the sandwich from home. Have a big breakfast. I don't, to me, this does not seem that unreasonable. No. The stuff with the luxury boxes where, they found some moron to quote like, oh, well, if I'm paying for a luxury box, then I expect a program. Like, so what they're doing is the boxes have 10 places in them. They're putting 5 programs in the box. It's reasonable. Apart from the fact, I think, unless you're like a guy who collects match programs,
no, you read them before the game and then you leave it there. I read them.
Okay, I don't.
Okay.
I never read them. I look at the back.
It's your loss. Okay. Some stuff is really interesting.
But you leave them there, right? You don't take it home.
So, some do.
So what United are saying is, look, it's 5 programs in the box. If you want your own program, just ask for it. We'll give it to you. Yeah. We're not going to lay it out there so people can use it for toilet paper or whatever, and it's just a waste of money. Or also they're saying like, hey, it's 2024. There's a QR code. Scan the QR code. Download the whole program to your phone. Yeah. I think this is reasonable, and this is not something to beat Manchester United up about.
I agree.
Thierry Henry has left his gig as France's under-21 Olympic team coach. What's next for TT, Jules?
It's a good question, Gabby. Yeah, I do think that...
I think you could fill in. When one of us isn't here, I think you should fill in.
He should.
On the Gab and Juls show.
I'll mention it to him.
Yeah, like you can be part of the rotation with Don, Robbo, and Nader.
He loves the show, but I think his ambition is maybe to go back to a job as a head coach somewhere, which I think what he did with the French under 21s and then under 23 at the Olympics have showed how capable he would be. I think he's a much better coach than he was at Montreal, than he was at Monaco before, or even with the Belgium national team. That's for sure. So I think his stock is rising starting going in the right direction. Maybe not enough yet to go top club, of course, but I expect him to get offers from decent clubs with decent projects that he can go into and show how well he can do, and then get a much bigger job, because I really think that there's great potential there from him.
We know what I like about Thierry Henry, which I think sets him apart. Obviously, we always have these debates about great footballers who've made all the money and whatever, and then they go into coaching. Most of the ones who stick around in coaching, their careers are kind of like vertical success stories, right? Like Pep Guardiola, Xabi Alonso. Thierry Henry's been up and down.
Yeah, very much down even.
And he still wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I like, because he's got all the money, he's got the fame, and he wants to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I presume it's because he wants to be
That's very true.
out on the training pitch.
Yeah. Back to Napoli, Gabi. We talked about Lukaku. We talked a bit about David Neres as well.
You want to ask me about somebody else?
What about Billy Gilmour, who's also been linked with them, and even Scott McTominay?
Okay. So, Conte has Lobotka and Zambonghisa in midfield, right?
Yeah.
Plays a 3-4-2-1 if you want system. So just two central midfielders. Lobotka, isn't he kind of like the East European version of Billy Gilmour?
He is.
The little man who passes?
Older though, but yeah, he is.
What do you need Billy Gilmour for?
I don't know, maybe at 10 million you think it's a good deal for a good player.
You think you can get Billy Gilmour for just 10 million?
I think they've offered 13, I think around 13 Brighton wants, something like that.
That little?
Yeah,
We've all gone off Billy Gilmour now.
Well, yeah, apparently, yeah. Clearly, Fabian doesn't rate him or something. I don't know. Yeah, I thought he was quite. If it's more than that, yeah, you're right. I share your skepticism.
At that price, yeah. He's young enough, and you know that it can.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's a UK player.
Yeah.
If he does well,
absolutely,
you can sell him back and you know, back. McTominay, I'm not even going to go there.
No.
Jules, we had Champions League qualifiers last night. That young boys Galatasaray game was something else.
Amazing.
Right call on the penalty at the end?
So, I didn't think so at all. Abdul simply because I think that, yes, the ball touches his hand after being deflected onto his leg. So, he goes for the last-ditch tackle on the shot. He hits his leg first and then his hand. I think the ball is already going over the bar. So,
are you certain of this? Because I think that has to be the discriminant.
Yeah, this is
if after it hits the leg, you think that without the hand the ball's going in.
Yeah, that's why
then you have to give it.
Yeah, you have to give it. I think for me,
but that's not why he gave it, because he booked the guy, which he wouldn't have done.
Yeah, and that was second yellow, and Abdul Karim got sent off, and will miss the second leg now next week. So yeah, I thought it was harsh, and certainly the double sanction, the penalty, and the second yellow, which meant a red, felt harsh as well for a Galatasaray team that was 2-0 down and playing horribly, to come back to 2-2 with Michy Batshuayi coming off the bench and being the saviour, to losing 3-2 then, which means next week in Istanbul it's going to be epic, that's for sure.
We need Galatasaray in Champions League. Sorry, young boys, but you know.
Yeah, true. We don't want the plastic pitch. I don't want a plastic pitch in the Champions League either. So. Meanwhile, those Jurgen Klopp addicts suffering from withdrawal symptoms got to enjoy Pep Linders at Salzburg. Big 2-0 win for them away in Poland against Dynamo Kiev.
Yeah, Dynamo Kiev, Naka, Chavkovsky, no. It's just not
Shaparenko is a lovely player, though.
But, and also this the Israeli kid, Gluck.
Oh, amazing. But we knew that. I'm just surprised he's still there, because surely that's the last season. He was outstanding yesterday. So was Yeo and Nene. And Salzburg are really fun to watch. Their press, everything. It's really, really good.
Jonathan Rowe, speaking of fun players, on his way to Marseille. My man De Zerbi's getting everything he wants, Jules.
Absolutely, Gabi. Massive changes in the squad. A lot of players leaving, a lot of players arriving. Like Jonathan Rowe, Norwich legend, obviously, at 21 years old. But he was good last season in the Championship. And Marseille is super happy they signed him, because they're saying that loads of clubs wanted him, which I'm not sure is completely true. But they say, we beat all the competition, all those English clubs who wanted him. Now he's coming to us. He's one of your favorite, loan with obligation to buy, 40 million euros. And yet, the Zerbi is super happy with him to play probably on the left-hand side, Greenwood on the right. And then we see who plays as a number 10 or second striker.
Why? No?
Behind Wai.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So Wai be the 9, and then Harit right now plays as a 10, but it could also be.
But Harry
let go.
gets injured anyway, right?
Yeah, true, true. So we see, but yeah, I like this signing a lot, and I like what Marseille are doing. Borussia Dortmund kick off the Bundesliga on Saturday against Eintracht Frankfurt. Got a big protest expected from the Yellow Wall.
Yeah, it's his business. The reason I include the story is A, we need the Bundesliga mention.
Yeah,
it wasn't Bayern related. But B, it just shows you the nature of the fans, right? They have the sponsorship with this company called Rheinmetall, which is, they make metal-related things, is the name. Yeah. They make a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff gets used to make weapons.
Exactly.
And they don't like that. They don't want to be associated with weapons manufacturer.
No, and who they sell the weapons to as well, yeah.
And who they sell the weapons to. And so, like, they don't, the fans are support. Well, I'll be really curious to see. This is unthinkable, by the way, in other countries, right? I mean, even...
Yeah, I agree.
I think, maybe some places, and some fan bases, but the vast majority of them, it's just, it's part of what makes the Bundesliga different. Adrien Rabiot is still a free agent.
He is.
As is Memphis Depay.
Yeah.
How do we feel about these two?
I don't know. And Wissam Ben Yedder, for example, is still a free agent as well. There's others. Is it because their demands are too high in terms of signing on fees and wages and things like that? Is it because they thought people would queue up to sign them and then there's no queue? I don't know. Like, we've seen Memphis putting his own video in Monaco, training on his own, like running and stuff.
Why is he in Monaco, by the way?
He lives there maybe now.
How do you get residency?
And that's a good question. Or maybe he's just there on holidays in an Airbnb somewhere.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, curious. But you're right. I mean, certainly, I don't know Memphis Depay, but for Adrien Rabiot and Véronique, his mum and agent, they were convinced that club would come and that he would not be. He even wanted his future to be sorted out before the Euro started. He was that confident of getting a new club after turning down the new offer from Juventus for a new deal. So
it's funny because I think what we've seen is. So I was thinking of like the last high-profile player who goes out of contract, turns down all the moves, says people will come for me. It's a little bit different because it's a goalkeeper. David De Gea now
it took him a year.
He's the backup goalkeeper at Fiorentina.
Yeah.
Now, he may make the starting position zone, but it's Conference League and whatever. He took a massive pay cut from what he was on. We knew from what he was on United because that was insane. But a big pay cut as well compared to some of his early demands.
Yeah.
You know, people forget about you really quickly. And Rabiot's probably the one who surprises me more than Depay. Because Depay, you're thinking, all right, but if I get this guy, like, he's a bit inconsistent, I have to build a whole attack around him, whatever. But Rabiot, you know, I thought would be more plug and play.
I know. He wants to come to England and to the Premier League. If I was Arsenal, we talked about Merino, and Merino is set. He's going to go to Arsenal. But I think as a left-footed number 8, I'd take Rabiot. Like, you know, if I was a Premier League, like a top club, I'd take Rabiot. I really would.
He's what? 3 years younger than Granit Xhaka? Maybe he can join Xabi Alonso and be the Granit. You know, when Granit Xhaka moves on.
Maybe. Back to that Armando Broja deal, Gary, because you want to talk about it. So Ipswich reportedly have an obligation to buy at 30 million for next summer if they stay up, which obviously at some point they were going to play against each other. And Chelsea play Ipswich, Stamford Bridge, for example, in April. Is this okay with you, or do you think there's a bit of a conflict of interest somewhere?
I think there's a massive conflict. There's a massive appearance of conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's rules against it, but there should be, because this is a counter-incentive type thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting anybody would do anything untoward, but I do know that if you're a team that's fighting Ipswich to avoid relegation, and Ipswich win at Stamford Bridge in April, and it's, let's say at the time, you know, Chelsea are mid-table, not competing for anything, or, you know, the reality is 30 million for Armando Broja is worth more to Chelsea than the 7 or 8 million they would get from the Conference League or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can't have deals with incentives that can create these situations. So I think they need to find another one.
Yeah.
Another way of doing this, I think.
Yeah.
The PFA announced their team and player of the year, Jules. I could care less about this, so I'll leave it up to you. But there are some bizarro choices here. Starting with the goalkeeper.
You think David Raya is bizarre?
How is he the
Best
goalkeeper
defense.
of the year?
Best defense in the league.
Oh, okay. Then, sure.
But who would you have it given to?
I don't know. Just somebody who's not him. No, like, I don't...
No, I'm glad this is based on your own analysis or something. So Raya in goal, Walker, Saliba, Van Dijk, Gabriel. Okay, this is a bit weird to have Gabriel
Okay,
back,
yeah.
but he was
You like
so
that?
happy. He was so happy to be part of that team. Rice, Rodri, Odegaard, Haaland, Foden, and Watkins. So no Cole Palmer, for example, in that team. Which, yeah.
You got the young player
You
of
got
the
the
year
young player of the
award.
year. Oh, he's not that young anymore. Phil Foden got player of the year, which I think we all agree
It's
on.
fine, I
Certainly,
don't
that's
care.
fine. I don't know. I like this team. Yeah, you can make a case for Cole Palmer finding a
I
role
don't know,
somewhere
dude.
there.
They all come from the same... Like, they all come from the same
So-
two teams. Sorry, they all come from City or Arsenal. Plus, then you've got Watkins, and then you got Van Dijk, who's in there for Liverpool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all
But
for
players
people,
voted for that.
right? So there's nobody else. Like the
No, but-
players only pay attention to their own teammates and the big teams they see on television, right?
No.
No,
It's
but I
the
don't...
whole players of the league that have voted. It's not just Arsenal players picking Arsenal players and City players picking City players.
Man, like, it just seems so chalk, so boring. Like, no, but I expect some insight. I expect
No,
the
but
players
like-
saying, "Hey, guess what? That I don't know, that Pascal Gross is really good," or whatever. Somebody saying like,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
I'm sure people voted for him, but not enough to be ahead of Odegaard or...
whatever. Let's just move on.
No, but I just see Gabriel Magalhaes and how happy he was to be in there, and I'm just happy for him.
Yeah, and none of these players realize that there's no left back, but like,
But it's Gabriel, he can play left back, he can play. Panathinaikos have signed Facundo Pellistri from Manchester United. Yes, he was still a Manchester United player, in case you've forgotten. Is it a good deal? Are you happy?
I am going to say something nice about Manchester United and the way they
Okay.
run for the second time on the show.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's...
I think this is a tremendous deal. It's a tremendous deal for a player who clearly hasn't lived up to
Yeah.
to his potential, to the expectations.
Never really got his chance, to be fair to him.
Yeah, and people say it wasn't good, blah blah blah, whatever. But it's $6 million plus $2 million in bonuses,
Yeah.
which I think just about covers his amortization and whatever, plus a little bit more. But then they get a 45% of his
That is
sell-on
massive.
fee.
That is massive.
So if he gets good, you cash in.
Yeah.
And if he gets good, they have a buyback until 2027, which is pretty cool, right? So like they still haven't given up on them. They've hedged themselves. Honestly, this is financial engineering.
Panathinaikos
but it's
must
good.
have been desperate, Gab, to agree to all of this.
They must
must-
really love
they
Facundo
must
Pellistri. I don't know.
have been really, really desperate.
Barcelona have released mock-ups of the new Camp Nou.
Yeah.
It looks great and will once again be the biggest stadium in Europe by some distance.
Yeah.
I'm excited for when it opens, although we
Me
don't know
too.
when that's going to be. You must be excited too.
Oh yeah, it looks I have to say, it looks fantastic. They've done a really, really, really good job. You're right. The
And
biggest
making
stadium
the
in Europe.
mock-ups and simulations look good.
Yeah, that's true. It's just it must be really exciting. And in terms of revenue and get revenues, to go back to the discussion we had at the start of the show, it's good for them. They needed that. You would expect that inside, because we've only certainly the ones I've seen is just the outside.
Yeah.
But you would expect luxury boxes, great things for merchandising, for the food and the drinks that you can have in there, so they can make as much money as possible. Yeah,
I think obviously they're in Montjuic, they're Montjuic now, they'll
Yeah.
remain in Montjuic. I think they're hoping that they can move in with a reduced capacity while they finish the stadium, which already I think is going to be a big boost.
yeah, which Real Madrid did with the Bernabeu as well. They still
Yeah.
played in there when it was not completely finished, so it can happen. Police in Brazil have dropped the investigation against Anthony for domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend Gabriela Cavain. Gab, the investigation, however, is still ongoing in Manchester.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the allegations stem from events that happened when they were together in Manchester. So I think in some ways that's going to be more important to Anthony. But still, this is an investigation back home. It cost him his place in the national team for a while. So I think it's an important step forward. Again, we're dealing with evidence, police investigations. We on the outside don't know, but we can talk about the impact it has on the players. So this is good news for Anthony. Where it's going to really turn the corner is if he gets resolved in Manchester as well.
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you, Jules, because the name brings back bad memories. but I have to mention Sergio Roberto.
I don't know him.
I always wondered why you were always so anti-Sergio Roberto, and then I could put the two and two together.
Even before that, I thought he was not a good player. But hey, anyway.
But he scored the final goal in the 6-1, by the way.
What's the question?
He's on the verge of joining Como.
Good
He joins Rafael Varane.
Yeah, exactly. I saw
injured
Como
Rafa.
play on Monday night. They were terrible, so he can go there.
Oh, come on, but you like seeing your buddy Cesc Fabregas.
Yes, as Fabregas and Rafael Varane, you're right. I'm not sure Sergio Roberto moves the needle at all. I'm not really sure how useful he will be to them in Serie A, considering how average he was when he was even younger. So now that he's older, I'm not even sure what kind of level he can hit. Let's see. But I think Como needs much, much more than Sergio Roberto to stay up.
Okay, this is the Como story, getting back in the top flight is great. Right?
Great.
He's getting old players, selling them on like Lake Como in the summer, which is nice. Not so much in the summer, but those sort of in the in-between seasons.
Yeah.
And George Clooney and all this. That's all cool. Now, it's less cool in winter when all of a sudden, like, the fog rolls in. But that's fine. You can go to Milan, you can go shopping, you can go skiing somewhere else if your contract allows. But it seems to me the only kind of, these, like, big-name players, I don't quite get the strategy. They're going after that guy from the Uruguayan kid at, was it Real Madrid B, is it Nico Paz or Rafa Paz?
Yeah, Nico.
I don't know. Like,
I'm with you. There's no direction at all in what they're doing in terms of recruitment. Fabrizio Romano reports that Georgi Mamadashvili could spend another season on loan at Valencia if he signs with Liverpool. That makes sense to you, right? To go back to the point we had with Kelleher, Alisson, and all of that.
Yeah, it's it's a Ramsdale effect as well. Like, of course, it just makes more sense. I do think, and it is a bizarre situation. I feel like right now there really is a glut of keepers everywhere around Europe, and you're better off having Mamadashvili start. And stay where he is if you think he has a future. He's obviously substantially younger than Alisson. Yeah. And I think he's also 3 or 4 years younger maybe 3 years younger than Kelleher. Kelleher's not,
not that young anymore.
He's not old, but he's like 24, 25 now, I think. So, sure, I think that's the only way it makes sense. But if you're Kelleher, you are kind of looking around and, you're hoping you find a landing spot. Our pal, John Texter, is pushing forward with his attempt to acquire Everton. Yeah. But he wants to sell his shares in Crystal.
He has to sell his share.
Well, I don't like to has to.
No.
I mean, he could borrow more money if he wanted to. But obviously he would like to sell his shares in Crystal Palace to do it. According to The Guardian, he's been offered $155 million for his 45% stake by David Blitzer and Josh Harris, who obviously are already part owners in Palace. I'm assuming he wants more?
Yeah, probably. We checked it up and he bought his 45% in 2021, so 4 years ago, for around 100 million. It was 87 plus 10.
And then he bought some more later,
So let's say 100 million. It's not a bad return, I guess. 100 to 155.
It's a 55% return in, what, 3 years?
3 years.
3 years? That's pretty good. You're beating,
pretty good.
You're beating the NASDAQ there. Come on.
I mean, and as you put in our notes, 155 million for his 45% stake means that Palace would be valued at 345 million pounds, which is quite a lot of money.
I think it's a lot of money.
I think a club like Crystal Palace.
Well, we've just been talking throughout most of the show about how there isn't that much money around. Yeah. It sounds like a lot of money for what is, with all due respect to Palace, a regional club in London, but still kind of it's that part of London that follows Palace. They don't have a big fancy bells and whistles stadium.
No, or training ground.
They've sold Elise.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem out of whack. And they're going to be at risk of going down.
Yeah. So let's see what JT does. Hey, JT.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo has launched his own YouTube channel, Gab, and he has a lot of followers, more than anybody so quickly. So it took him 12 hours to get to 10 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. It took Mr. Beast 130 days to get to 10 million. So you see? So is he the next Mr. Beast? That's my question for you.
Cristiano can be what Cristiano wants to be. I don't know. There's a whole monetization thing. Obviously, there's a difference between having a... Mr. Beast creates content.
Yes.
Cristiano obviously creates content too by playing and stuff, although is this the content that people want to watch?
Have you watched it yet?
I have not watched it.
So you haven't seen the one where a question is asked to him and his girlfriend,
Georgina, yeah.
And the one I saw was Cristiano's favorite color, and so she had to write the answer, and he writes the answer, and she has to write what she thinks is the answer, and she wrote red or green, and he wrote white, and he even then said, "Who is this person? How can she doesn't know my? They've been together for how many, like so many years now, and yet she doesn't know his favorite color." So yeah.
Okay, sorry, white.
White is his favorite color. I mean, Real Madrid, I guess, and no.
Unless he's trying to make some. Who has white as their favorite color?
I don't know. I mean,
black I could get if you're dark or whatever.
Maybe.
Like go back to Reservoir Dogs. Everyone wants to be Mr. Black.
Yeah,
but
I mean, she put red and green for the Portugal colors. You would think. As your country, but maybe. But yeah, he was not too happy by the fact that she didn't know. But this is the great content that Cristiano will offer you on his YouTube channel.
I am curious to know where he goes with this. I just want to keep playing. Dude.
Yeah.
Keep playing as long as you can, because for now, you're a better footballer. Maybe after you retire, maybe you'll become bigger than Mr. Beast.
Yeah. Exactly.
Why not?